Hi, it's been a while. This is LunaPiena. Today I want to share something that's been going on lately. If you're only here for One Piece discussion, feel free to skip ahead to the timestamp shown on screen. That's where main topic begins, One Piece. So, recently, something a bit frustrating happened to me, unfortunately. There was a YouTuber who, maybe out of jealousy over the fact that I explain One Piece from a Japanese perspective, like Japanese language perspective, told me to stop making this kind of content. They provoked me saying things like, stop doing these translations. If you're serious, compete through just theories. I ignored that comment on Don Dusk channel and kept doing what I love, making videos that highlight One Piece as it's read in Japanese. But eventually, this person started leaving negative comments and negative things, like obsessive comments on my Don Dusk channel. At this point, yeah, they pretty much turned into toxic, clingy troll. It really reminded me of that saying. A tick doesn't stop feeding just because you pretend it's not there. And honestly, I think there's a lesson in that. Maybe you've gone through something similar too. But here's what I believed. In today's world, the real key is differentiation, standing out by being yourself. In fact, I was so happy to hear that someone who focused this LunaPienArt channel actually started learning Japanese language because of it. And guess what? That same person has now successfully expanded their job into Japan's market. For him, as an American, that Japanese market was total blue ocean. This just goes to show, even if we all have same skills, where we apply them makes all the difference. So, if you are interested in the Japanese market, feel free to reach out to me. I might be able to help, even just a little. And what I really want to say is this. Instead of turning to negativity and attacking others like that YouTuber did, I believe it's way more meaningful to focus on how you can use your strengths to your advantage. That's what will truly move you forward. Now we are back to the topic. One of the biggest moments in this chapter is definitely why Gaëtan actually managed to cut off Somer's arm. Now, here's one theory. If Somer's arm was severed, that means the mark on his body was also separated. And remember, in the chapter 1140, it was revealed that without the mark, you can't pass through the abyss. The God Knight seems to be using powers that go away beyond regular devil fruits. Things like regeneration, transportation through the abyss, and more. If those powers are only possible because of that special mark, then cut it off might actually be the key to neutralizing their abilities. That might be the trick here. And by the way, did you notice something similar about Somer's mark? It actually looks a lot like symbol on the sail of St. Brice. The ship fell from the sky right before the Straw Hat Pirates entered the mock town, the place full of dreamless fools who given up on chasing adventure like Bellamy 2 years ago. Also, there's a skeleton on the ship, and on its left arm, there's something that looks like a wristband. The placement of that wristband lines up pretty closely with where Somer's arm was cut off in this chapter. That's definitely something worth paying attention to. And then, there's a moment Gaëtan said to Somers, "It's been a while." That line tells us these two have definitely crossed paths before. Which means, during their past encounter, the Roger pirates likely learned about the God Knight's regeneration powers and the mechanics of the Abyss. So this time, Gaëtan may have gone straight for Somers' arm on purpose, knowing it would disable those abilities by removing the mark. Now, here's something interesting. While it seems like every member of God's Knights can use regeneration and transportation freely, there's one key difference between them and the Five Elders. Did you catch it? It's whether or not they are ageless. We know Sultan looks exactly the same as he did 200 years ago, so the Five Elders clearly don't age. But the Girling, the Supreme Commander, Saiko Shireikan of the God's Knights, have visibly aged since the God Valley incident. That means Somers is probably aging too, unlike 5 elders. So here's the question. When exactly did younger Somers face off against the Roger pirates? The simplest guess would be the God Valley incident. We know that some God's Knights were sent there, even if the main focus was the fight between the Rocks pirates and the unexpected alliance of Roger and the Garp. Still, while we know what Roger and Garp were doing, the exact action of the God's Knights during the incident are still a mystery. And we don't have much information on where the rest of Roger Pirate's crew was during that event either. So it's entirely possible that Gaban and Somers clashed in the completely separate part of the main battlefield during the God Valley. What do you think about that? Now, there might be another simple explanation for why Gaban was able to prevent Somers' arm from regenerating. That was Haki. In Japanese, there's this thing called dakuten, these 2 dashes here. These little marks that makes sound voiced. For example, ki becomes gi, or ha becomes ba with 2 dashes. Now check out Gaban's name, Scoppa Gaban in Japanese. Here it's Gaban. It contains 2 voiced sounds, gi and ba. It contains 2 voiced sounds, gi and ba. In this case, because 2 dashes here and here, Gaban. If we remove the dakuten from those characters, the Gaban, it becomes ki and ha, which gives us haki. So hidden within his name is literally the word haki. Now, let's look at Somers' laugh. Gi ha 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 ha. Take away the dakuten again, and what do you get? Haki, ha 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 ha, haki. Once again, haki showed up. So this battle between Gaban and Somers might actually be hinting at a new evolution of haki. Even Luffy, who can see slightly into the future, thanks to fight with Katakuri, couldn't snatch the key from Gaban. That might mean there's a whole new level of haki that hasn't been fully revealed yet. And here's where it gets deeper. Somers calls himself Ai no Dendoshi, missionary of love. So it's possible that love itself can be channeled and refined into a kind of haki, a form that surpasses even what we've seen so far. Maybe the difference is this. Somers used love as a tool to manipulate others, feeding on emotion like drama, but Gaban, he's transformed love into inner strength, real haki. And maybe that's a very difference that decided the outcome of their battle. And now let's have a look at Robin and Somers. This chapter focused heavily on the battle between Robin and Somers, and one moment in particular really stood out. Robin, or more accurately, her clone, threw herself off the tree trunk with Somers still in her grasp. What's exactly interesting is how she clung to him as they fell. It instantly reminded me of the scene where Kuzan hugged Robin just before freezing her. Robin probably learned from that moment. When it comes to stopping your opponent from escaping, the fastest way is to just hold on tight. And during the fall, Somers actually asked her, "Are you trying to die with me?" But in Japanese, "Shinju suruki ka?" This is Shinju. This kanji means heart. This kanji is inside or central. In English version, this gets translated as lover's sleep. Now that's clever localization. It works emotionally and visually, but the original Japanese term used was shinju, which has a different cultural meaning. Let me explain a bit. In Japanese, shinju traditionally refers to mutual suicide between 2 lovers, men and women. Not necessarily jumping off a cliff, but rather shared decision to die together out of love. It's not limited to height or location. It's about emotional unity and tragedy. This word was actually appeared before in One Piece. Do you remember? It shows up in Aramaki's tattoo. The one that reads Shikawa Shinju. In SBS, Oda Sensei explained that Aramaki got this tattoo after a sad event involving a woman. And we also learned that he was once a police officer in the Taya Kingdom in the South Blue. But after a major scandal involving a woman, he was imprisoned in his country. So it's possible that the woman Aramaki loved took her own life. And that moment still haunts him. Now we're going to talk about Ronya. So in this scene, Summers gives Yellow a horrible choice. Either push one of the children of Elbaf, Ronya, off the giant tree, or burn down the school. And right there, we see Ronya's incredible courage. She speaks up and tells them to choose her to let her die. It's a powerful moment that really shows her bravery. Yaro, shaking her words, turns to Anje and tells her to burn the school. But just then, Gaëtan arrives and stops everything. Now here's something really important. The Dendemushi communications are being broadcast across all of Elbaf. That detail opens up two big possibilities. First, there's the chance that Gunko hears Summers screaming after his arm is cut off by Gaëtan. And in a panic, Gunko might go ahead and push Ronya off the tree. But here's what I think. Even if Ronya gets pushed, she's going to survive. Why? Because she already said it herself. I'm lucky girl. And she's absolutely right. Right now, by pure luck, Luffy and his crew are down below in the underworld, Meikai. Not only that, but Luffy has just eaten a huge amount of food and grown to massive size, so he's more than big enough to catch Ronya as she falls. Right now, the crew down there, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, still thinks everything peaceful up top, like the party is still going on. But if Ronya suddenly drops from the sky into their underworld, that will be the perfect natural trigger for them to finally realize something wrong on the surface. That moment will give them the reason to head back up and move the story into its next big chase. But there's one more thing we need to pay close attention to in this scene. Summers actually says Gaëtan's full name, Scopper Gaëtan. Now, that might not seem like a big deal at first, but remember, the Dendemushi is broadcasting everything across Elbaf, which means Gunko and all hostage children definitely had it too. And here's where things get dangerous. If Colon hears that the blurts out something like, "That's my dad," then there's no doubt he'll be the next target. This ties directly back to the Egghead flashback where Dragon said, "A children is parents' greatest weakness." We are probably going to see that idea come into play again here in Elbaf. I wouldn't be surprised if Gunko used the Dendemushi to broadcast Colon's voice and try to freeze Gaëtan in his tracks, using his son as leverage. Now sure, it's totally possible that Gaëtan could wipe out the God's Knights right now if he went all out, but narratively, that wouldn't leave much room for Straw Hat Pirates to shine. So if the story wants to highlight Gaëtan's strength without letting him steal the spotlight, they'll need a reason to temporarily take him out of the action. And Colon is a perfect piece to do that. And if Colon ends up being taken back to Marijoa, then there's a good chance that Straw Hat Pirates will be forced to head back there too. And if that happened, it could play right into what Shari predicted in the Fishman Island arc. That for some reason, Luffy will destroy the Red Line, including Fishman Island. On the other hand, if they manage to save Colon, then the Straw Hat Pirate can keep moving forward to the next island, and maybe even face off directly against one of the remaining emperors, Yonko. Either way, Colon's fate is clearly a major turning point in the story in Elbaf, And what happens to him is something we definitely can take our eyes off. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.